So, what we're talking about today, we're talking about this book, Your Invisible Power. Let me get it set up. So this is all about the power of thought, all about the power of thought. What you think is what you get, basically. So very, very powerful thing. And it's all about being able to hold a vision in your mind and then have this vivid mental imagery and really clearly picture what you want, what you want out of life, basically, what your next move is going to be. And then what you do is when you think about something you want enough, you start to then visualize and conjure it into existence. And that's where the magic really starts to happen. Let me just get comfortable here. Not too comfortable. I need to get more comfortable. Right, so visualization. That's what this book is all about. So, and let me give you a quote from this book as well. So, and we'll just kind of ponder this as well together. So, all power is from within and is therefore under your control. So think about this. I mean, when I did my A-levels years and years ago, one of the A-levels I did was psychology. And there was this concept that always kind of stuck with me. And it's this concept of having an internal versus an external locus of control. And it always stuck with me. And then, throughout my life, I've been thinking, right, when things start to go wrong, there's been times when things have started to go wrong. And I thought, right, what can I control? What's actually within me control? And, there's no point in worrying about things, if there's nothing I can do about them. Like excessively thinking about, what you can't control. It's not actually a productive thing. So people who have got an external locus of control, and it's locus, it's LOCUS, it's not locust, it's locus. So people have got an external locus of control. They basically essentially got a victim mindset. So it's like everything's been done to them. They feel that, the decisions they're making don't really matter, because, they're just kind of on this journey that they can't control, really. But if you've got an internal locus of control, even when bad things happen, that you can still control what's going on, but you also take responsibility. You can control what you can control. You can't control everything, but when you're in that position, it's also about thinking about what led up to that as well. So taking personal responsibility for that as well, because there's usually a sequence of decisions that have been made. We've made some decisions that have got us into that that kind of position as well. So all power is from within and is therefore under your control. It's very powerful. So everything starts in the mind. And the thing is, the way that it works in this life is, if we plant a seed today, we're not going to see the effects today. So we can plant, we can make decisions that are going to help us work towards our goals, and we can make, on the other hand, bad decisions, and we're not necessarily going to see the good or the bad effects today. In fact, we don't. There's a delayed reaction. You probably had a delayed gratification. If you can delay gratification for as long as possible, then you'll that's where the real fulfillment exists. And the thing is, when you put in positive inputs enough, it becomes embedded in you. It starts to change. You start to have a change within. When you start to curate your reality and control the inputs that are coming in, and only allow mostly good inputs. When I say mostly, I mean it's it's difficult to avoid bad stuff coming in sometimes. So it's controlling it as much as you can, controlling your environment. And James Clear talks about changing your environment. If you want to change, often when you want to change and better yourself, it can be a matter of changing the environment, tidying up your space, clearing up. You probably heard out with the old, in with the new. Just get rid of stuff that you're not using anymore. I think in this world we're kind of conditioned to be consumers rather than creators, and it can really get in your head and under your skin. If you're always chasing that dopamine from buying things, and then you end up with loads of clutter, you're not going to have a great environment. And that's certainly something, that it's certainly something that affects me, and it's something that I'm working on now. So we've all heard of the law of attraction, or well, a lot of us have. If you haven't heard of it, then the law of attraction is all about that like attracts like, basically. So you've got to prepare yourself, prepare your environment, change, have some positive change. But it's also about eliminating negative self-speak and stuff like that, tackling limiting beliefs with affirmations, and then got to understand that positive thoughts can and negative thoughts can bring you experiences, but obviously if you're thinking positively, you're gonna if you believe in the law of attraction, and I 100% do, if you're in an high vibrational state, the same frequency as the things that you're looking to attract, you will attract them. But if you're operating from a low vibrational state, from fear and doubt and worry and shame and all that kind of thing, then you're gonna attract that as well. So got to be careful what you're thinking, because it's kind of not just thoughts, it's energy. It's real energy. So yeah, this book is mostly about visualization. So having that vivid mental image of what you want fixed in your mind. So you're imagining the thing, like when you're a child and you daydream. And I think as adults, unless we work in like really creative jobs, the childlike power of imagination kind of dissipates over time, and we might be conditioned and told, to be realistic about our dreams, and get a job in this, that, and the other X, Y, or Z, because that pays the best, and all that. And the ability to dream and to imagine what you want your life to be like kind of gets conditioned out of you. It gets kind of removed and replaced with the rat race, the 9-well-5 grind, the giving up 5 days to get 2 days back at the weekend, kind of thing that MJ DeMarco talks about in Unscripted. But yeah, there's there's common themes in all of these. When I were younger, when I were in my 20s, they call them like self-help books, and they were kind of even like I remember like self-improvement and self-help stuff. It might have just been my paradigm, but I just there seemed to be like negative connotations around this kind of stuff, like and perhaps there still is, but if you get into this stuff, you're taught you're taught at school that there's five senses, but when you actually get into this stuff, you realise that as human beings, we're the only being on planet Earth with higher faculties. We've got the ability to have things like we've got intuition, for example. So it's much more than just the five senses. The first law is the law of vibration. Everything's moving, nothing's still. And then the next most important law is the law of attraction. Kind of how it's worked in my life. There's a quote in this, another quote I'll give you from this book as well. So the law of attraction is always at work, and what you think about, you bring about. But that's not always a positive, because if you're thinking, if you're in a low vibrational state a lot of the time, then you're attracting more of that. You're attracting more. If you're not in the same frequency as what you want, then you're going to attract what you don't want. So it's important to understand we call it a double-edged sword, really. So it's not just like get into a high vibrational state and attract good things. It's also avoid a low vibrational state, because you're going to be in one or the other, aren't you? Or different, whichever level you're operating within, whatever frequency you're in. And so ways of staying as much as possible in an high vibrational state is really just a lot of your basics, but then perhaps some what I'd call less obvious stuff. So more advanced stuff, like the basics for me, fitness, exercise, eating whole foods, avoiding white sugar and avoiding alcohol, avoiding bad habits in general. And they're like the things that I was taught, when I was younger, but kind of things that I wasn't taught were the meditation, so guided meditation. It just wasn't a thing. I saw it in like films, like a lot of the martial arts films have got meditation in, to have a nice calm confidence and steady mind and stuff like that. And I always tried it, when I was kind of young. I used to do karate. My dad would take me to karate. So I get into it to an extent, but I'm always kind of struggling. I would kind of close my eyes and then I start to think about stuff. And the idea is that you're just focusing on kind of, one thing. Like it could be a single point where you put your fingers together or something like that. You're just focusing on something. Could be the birds tweeting. It's only when I started guided meditation that it really started to work. And the thing is, it can help you to connect to, your true self, your inner self, the spirit and soul. The way that I see it, is you've got body, mind, spirit, soul, and they all want to work in synergy. And when you're doing things like meditation and when you're doing gratitudes and things like that. And if you're not used to that kind of thing, or you think it's kind of something that doesn't work, then I'd try it. Things like breathing exercise and breath work and stuff like that. Cold plungers, going for a brisk walk, sticking within your circadian rhythm. So going to bed at the same time or regularly, getting up at the same time every day. A lot of that I was taught, but then a lot of the other stuff, it kind of the meditation were a big one for me. The guided meditation has been transformative because it's about kind of slowing down because you've got the kind of daily grind and you got all the inputs coming in and all that kind of thing. And then you've got your reticular activating system, your RAS, which is just seeing what you've conditioned to see. Like say, like as a human being, we only take so much stuff in, and it's whatever we tuned into. So I don't know if you've ever you've probably like driven down a road and then you've walked down the same road and you've noticed different things and you've not noticed them as you've been driving, or you've walked through town in an hurry, and then you've actually taken the time to sit down and have a coffee and have a look around and you notice new things. Now, when I was growing up, like early on, there were no internet or anything like that, so I remember spending a lot of time in nature, and that would definitely, out of my childhood, some of the best times. The nature, the going down the fields. I remember walking with my granddad and stuff like that. There were great times, and you didn't have a phone with you. It wasn't like it's kind of like worrying these days where you see people hunched over the phone walking down walking across the road. They're down on the phone and they've got they've got their head in something else and they're not taking things in. And their reticular activating system will just be focused on that internet world, this virtual world. And you know what? It's it does come down to, I mean, it's all about dopamine. It's all about that quick fix, and it's very much psychological. And it is when people are like doom scrolling and they find that they've been stuck on scrolling on the phone for 2 or 3 hours, and then they didn't actually sit down to do that. They wanted to do something else. They maybe had plans for the day, but they end up doing that instead of whatever they were meant to be doing. So it's a world of noise and information overload and temptation. And but how do you navigate it? How do I navigate it, and how do I protect like shield myself from it as a business owner who uses social media, not only to get business, but to help clients to get more targeted leads and things like that. So the way that I see it is it's an ongoing attempt to be a creator, to be more of a creator and less of a consumer. So it's about being intentional with the day. So if I want to have 20 minutes scrolling or whatever, then it's planned, so it's you might think it's robotic, but to get stuff done every day as a business owner, you've got to plan things and actually have the discipline to follow through. And that is where a book like this comes in, where you're sticking with your big goal. You're visualizing all you need to become to have, you know, what you want in future, so that your future self, you know, if they could speak to you right now, they would thank you. So it's about being intentional, and that's one of the, you know, if you come away with one thing from this live, it's be intentional and have the discipline, so the ability to give yourself an instruction, give yourself a command, and follow through. Because if we don't, then a lot of people are just spending 95% of the day in autopilot, you know, doing habitual tasks, and just doing just on repeat, just on rinse and repeat, really, and not really growing. And you know, if that's what they want, that's fine. But if they want to grow, which I think is pretty much the acquisition of knowledge, implementation, iteration, I think that's the pretty much the meaning of life. You know, because as you grow, you can teach others, you can help others, you can help your family. I think the spirit's for, as Bob Proctor says, expansion and fuller expression. I don't think we're here to stagnate. I don't think we're here to be bored. I can't remember the last time I was bored. I don't think I've been bored since I was a kid. Before we had the internet, really. But, you know, it's everything in balance. It's like the body. It needs to, you know, get back into, after it's been in crisis and fight or flight, and you know, the cortisol, the stress hormones been pumping, needs to get back to homeostasis. It's like if you drink alcohol, then the body is getting rid of the poison and it's looking to get back to homeostasis. You know, it's the body's a wonderful thing. It's a well designed. We've got well designed bodies, and the great at self regulating. And it's the same with anything, but we can't overload them with too much of, you know, too much information. It's got to be very intentional about what we take in. So one of the things that I'll say, and this is another quote from this book, which I would recommend that you buy. It's only 80 odd pages as well, so you can read that in a sitting or two. I think I got through that in a few hours. It's not an heavy book either. It's full of golden nuggets. But the next quote that I wanted to let you know about, impart to you, is it's ask, believing you have already received, you shall receive. So this is all about feeling that it's already happened, because your brain won't know any different. You'll convince your brain. The way it works is you've got a big goal up here, and then you've got your paradigm. This is in your subconscious. This is your way of thinking right now. But you need to have a paradigm shift. You need to change into a 2.0 version of yourself in order to be this person who does these things. So let's say, I don't know, you're in an organization now, and you're working in the call center bit or something at the operational level, and you aspire to be a departmental manager. You'll be acting and thinking in a certain way in the call center bit now, but as a manager, you'll be required to think differently, and there can't just be a big jump. You know, there can't just be a sudden transition into that. You want to really start working, working as that future version of yourself. So how do you do that? How do you work as the future version of yourself? Just it starts with thinking. It starts with thinking differently. So the first quote I said, all power is from within and is therefore under your control. So the power it starts with a thought, becomes an action, and then it becomes an habit. And the thing is with habits is that if we do something different one day, it feels uncomfortable. And, thank goodness we've got neuroplasticity, because, and if you're trying to change something, you've got to do it again and again, because neural pathways are created when we do things. And it feels uncomfortable because we're coming out of our comfort zone. It's not what we're used to. When we do things again and again and we create habits, our brain creates subroutines, just to automate it, because it thinks, right, Michael's doing that again and again. We're just gonna make it unconscious for him now. So it's in learning. It's the fourth and final stage. It's called unconscious competence. So it's where you can do things unconsciously. It's like the first stage of learning is unconscious incompetence. So you don't know what you don't know, and that's such a wild concept to me. You don't know what you don't know. So when you have a light bulb moment, or you think, wow, I wish I would have known that earlier, and you kind of even, it can suck you down into like lower vibrational frequencies, because you get regret that you didn't learn it earlier, or you get angry, which is all low vibrational. Anger is still low vibrational, but it's higher than things like shame and guilt. But you learn something, and you think, wow, I really don't know what I don't know. Every day is a school day. And the thing is, having humility and having, putting the ego aside, and being a student in life, being a lifelong learner, is something that I didn't do when, early on, like early 20s. I wouldn't have been open to things. There were a lot of ego. There were a lot of arrogance. There were a lot of I know best, and why don't you do it this way, and things like that. And people who were older and more experienced than me, I thought I could do better than them. But then, you get into their shoes and you think, oh, this is not as easy as I thought. This is actually, when you're in the thick of it, especially when the emotions and the fear, the false expectations appearing real, start to kick in. That's where you're outside of your comfort zone. But then you start to get used to it. You start to learn what works. You start to have ideas, then implement, and then course correct along the way. Yeah, that's kind of how it works. And then one of the big paradigm shifts that I had was this idea of abundance versus scarcity. So, look, I mean, still got some limiting beliefs. I've been working through them, just being transparent and honest and authentic and all that kind of thing. But there's still a lot of things that I'm working through, and these limiting beliefs that can be. You've got the number one thing. The number one thing I'll say is, when you're studying stuff like this and you're doing things like holding a vision in your mind, and you're working towards goals, and you're doing it every day. You're showing up for yourself. You're planning to more today, and you're putting your inputs in, and you're believing. What you're doing is you're fixing on your why. You're fixing on, right, what do I want, but why do I want it as well? What is it going to mean? What is it going to mean for me? And when you're doing, like when I'm doing sales, I'll be finding out what motivates who I'm speaking to. And it's like, because I do lead generation for companies, digital marketing, and it's like, well, yeah, you I don't know. I speak to a lot of businesses where they're turning over the million mark, and they want to get to like 1.5, 2 million, and they've been stuck at the million for 5 years, for example. And then I'll say, well, look, you're at a million a year, like 80, 90 grand a month kind of thing. And so you're not starving, you're not going hungry, you've got a roof over your head, you've been doing it for a while. Why now? Why do you want to do it? And then it is digging into the pain. That's what That's what sales is. People buy from people buy based on because of emotion, and they justify it with logic. And what that means is people buy because they attach an emotion to wanting to change, and it's about wanting to change, and it requires change. It requires doing things differently. You don't buy that expensive handbag, because you buy it because of status, which is all part of emotions. You don't buy it because you think, oh, that's great value for money, or you can get an handbag for 10 quid, So you get it because it you feel, it makes you feel good. The same with that fancy car. You can run around in in an Astra, like I've got an Astra, and that's perfectly fine. You don't need a Porsche, but if you want a Porsche, that could be a big motivator, because that can make you feel good. And I wanted to touch on something as well. One of my college lecturers, something really stuck in my mind. He said you've got to have milestones when you've got to reward yourself when you're doing well. When you hit milestones, you've got to reward yourself. And a lot of people don't do that. It's giving a reward. I'm not saying like a daily reward where you just I'm talking about big milestones. When you've got to another level, you've leveled up, you've consistently stuck with it, and stuff like that. We've got to reward ourselves. So it could be a nice holiday with the family, and that's why you've got to know your why. Because why are we doing it? Why do you want that promotion at work? What is it going to actually mean to for your family and you? Why are you doing it? Do you want to go on better holidays? Do you want to have more money because it's going to give you more security? Do you want to put the kids through private school or something like that? Whatever your motivation is, why do you want to start that business? Do you want to have more time freedom? If you think you're going to have more time freedom starting a business, and at least not initially, it's you've got another thing coming. You've got less time when you start. The a lot of businesses. I work harder than when I had a job. I'll give you another quote from this then, and then I'll go through some kind of all the overarching key principles as well. So, look, one of the other quotes in this is the key to unlocking your potential lies in understanding and harnessing your invisible power. So it is beyond the five senses, basically. It is our ability to imagine and attract what we want, but we've got to be in that place to receive it. So one of the things I'll go through, I promised earlier on I'd talk about gratitude and kind of what that means, because I think, like, when I first heard about this stuff, I was like skeptical, and and by the way, I've got nothing to sell you on this live. I'm not. This is not leading up to selling anything. I'm just trying to help anybody out there who needs to hear it. And this is like a kind of therapy for me as well. To run through what I've learned over the years and all that kind of thing. So when you're teaching, when you're training, it's like another level of learning, basically. But yeah, gratitude, the way that it clicked with me with gratitude is, if we get up in the morning and if your phone's at the side of your bed and you start to scroll a lot, and that's the first thing you do, then you check all your emails, then you're almost like wildly just flicking between apps, and you're thinking, all right, dopamine, need some dopamine. And it's all been designed by psychologists, I promise you. I work in marketing, so I know it's all about. For example, things like Persuasion. So Robert Cialdini, great book on influencing people, on persuading people, lots of psychology and stuff like that. So all these things are designed to press down on pain points and solve problems, and actually, what I do ethically and morally helps businesses to grow, and I help business owners to make more money and you know, grow the business essentially, which results in them having a better life. So I'm very happy, and I get a lot of job satisfaction from what I do, and I'm building a business, and it's very satisfying, and I'm tapping into you know, my true self by doing that. I'm here to build things, create things. I don't know if you believe in God or you're spiritual or anything like that, but I believe that we were built in God's image. It says it in the Bible, and so if we were built in God's image, God's the creator, and we're creators as well. We're creating things. So I think I'm here to, you know, create a better life, grow, create a big business, acquire knowledge, and implement it. Not to stagnate. Stagnation, boredom is the worst possible thing. Also says in the Bible, the devil makes work for idle hands. It's not a good thing to be to have time on your hands. I'm not saying work all the time. I mean, I believe in balance. I believe in the 5 pillars of life, which, well, in my opinion, so fitness, fuel, family, faith, and finance, in that order as well. So, you know, a lot of people put family first, but if you're not fit and you haven't got the right fuel in your body, you can't look after your family anyway. So it's important to fill your own cup up, so that's overflow before you know, when the, you know, if the aeroplane's going down, they teach you to put on the oxygen mask yourself first and then help others. You know, you can't help others if you don't help yourself first. But it all goes hand in hand. We need that synergy. There's a cumulative effect as well. I think it all has been almost like bank accounts that I'm depositing into, and if you stop depositing into one of them, you know, you're gonna. What tends to happen is that depletes, and then it goes into overdraft, and it's hardest to top it up. You need to build up momentum to top it up. So it's a lot easier to actually just put daily inputs into everything and never neglect anything, really. So today, been for a nice fish and chips in Wakefield with Vicky, spur of the moment for half an hour. You know, it topped up these these kind of, you know, these bank accounts. And the thing is, if one bank account goes into overdraft, then it drags the other down. They've got to, you know, it's like if you think about the 5 pillars that I've described as being like one egg, and quite fragile. You know, we're quite fragile as human beings, really. And if an egg cracks a bit, the kind of referential integrity or the structure is compromised. So if it cracks a bit, it can crack a lot, and it can crack all 5. So if one goes down, you tend to find that you neglect others trying to get that one back up because you've lost momentum on it. So if you've ever been in debt, you'll know it's easier to stay out of debt than to get out of debt, because the compound effect of interest going in the right way when you've got investments, when you've got it going the wrong way with debts and it's going against you and compounding, that's not a nice downward spiral to be on. So if you let one of your areas, like your health, for example, if you're really grinding in your business but not going for a walk every day and not doing your meditation and not doing, you know, your mindful stuff and stuff like that, you're just really grinding in your business, your health's going to suffer. And there's an old saying, you know, you spend a lot of your life building your wealth, and then you'll spend, you know, the rest of your life spending your wealth on getting your health back. I probably butchered that, but you know what I mean. You don't want to overemphasize on if, for example, if you really neglect your health for long enough, you might have to have an operation for something that otherwise you wouldn't have needed an operation for, because you're having to go under the knife for that particular thing, and it's really, you could have that could have been preventable. It's say we're like not flossing your teeth or something like that. You know, you're actually avoiding expensive dental procedures, which will take not only your time, which is our most precious commodity, but also your some of your wealth as well to fix it. You have to pay the dentist, and your health as well. You know, because it's not good for your health. You know, so yeah, gratitude is all about actually focusing on focusing on what you've got. So just back to that example, if you're waking up every day and you're spending 10 minutes on your phone messing about and just like, you know, surface level dopamine kind of instant gratification stuff, which is designed by psychologists, you know, who design the fruit machines. It's the same kind of thing, you know, when you've got your phone and you're scrolling, like scroll, you get your dopamine, yeah, the instant gratification. It's all about dopamine. It's the same. The scroll is the same as the fruit machines, the slot machines, like that. Same thing. It's the dopamine spins up. Oh yeah. So yeah, doing your gratitude every day, really important. So 10 things that you're grateful for, because then you're not focusing on the bad. So think about it this way. I've been, like earlier on in this video, in this live, talking about staying in an high vibrational state. When you're doing your gratitude, do you think you're in a high vibrational state? So when you're thinking about things that you've got in your life and you're grateful for, and things that you have got, do you think you're in a high vibrational state or a low vibrational state? Of course, you're in a high vibrational state because you're thinking about things that are good in your life. So you're happy, you enjoy. Happiness is kind of fleeting. It's kind of like short-lived, but joy is more sustainable. So we'll look for joy in things, love, gratitude, joy, things like that. And then if you go up every day and you thought, oh, I don't have this, all the have-nots, all that kind of thing, you're going to be in low vibrational frequencies, aren't you? And the thing is, so with law of attraction, like attracts like. Positive focus brings positive results, but also negative focus, focusing on what you don't have, i.e. the opposite of gratitude, you're going to get negative results. You're going to get more of the stuff that you don't want. So very important to understand that. So the overarching principles then, I promise I'll go through the overarching principles of this book. The power of thought. It's all about thought. It's all about what you think about. You can control your thoughts by really tackling things like limiting beliefs, like write them down. Right, when you notice something, write it down. Then you need to get to the root of it, the origins of it as well. When you first when you first heard that sentence, is it something that you've learnt from somewhere? It's usually from childhood, usually from people around you, usually passed down from, you know, through generations. It can be teachers, it can be parents, it can be teachers who have been taught to teach in that way. They've been taught that by their parents. Very, very powerful stuff. And the problem is when you're young, you're very impressionable, and that's where you know, you've got your most neuroplasticity, and then when you get older, you know, it gets more difficult to learn. But you know, don't get down on that. You know, people can change. There's that old saying that, you know, you can't teach your old dog new tricks. And I think that's a scam. I think that is basically saying stay in your place in a functional society. You're meant to be doing this, whatever you're meant to be doing. I think that's a scam in itself. I think that's just getting people to give up and have a victim mindset, have an external loss control. Oh, there's nothing I can do about it. I've been told that I've got to stay in my place, not get ideas above my station or anything like that. So just be careful with all these beliefs and challenge every self-limiting belief if it serves you. If a belief serves you, if your worldview serves you, if your belief system serves you, then that's fine. But it's usually not absolute like that. It's usually not kind of binary. There's usually bits within us that we need to change in order to get what we want, or we end up compromising. We say, "Oh, I don't really want that." But if you've ever had a big goal and you've really wanted it, but then you thought, well, that's unrealistic, just stop daydreaming, or just do what I've always done, kind of thing, then just challenge yourself. Just challenge yourself to think differently. Think in terms of, there's a world of possibilities. There's an abundance of possibilities, and a lot of it comes from a scarcity mindset, and it also comes from there's this idea of having a growth mindset, being open to change, being a student in life, a lifelong learner, as opposed to having a fixed mindset, which is where you're more a bit closed off to change, and you're set in your ways. I am what I am, that kind of thing. I don't want to change. Don't really want to take any constructive criticism or anything like that. So yeah, got to be careful. And I think that's all I've got for you really on this one. And we've been going nearly 50 odd minutes. So I think I'll leave it at that. So I'm currently just I'm going live on this in Riverside. So I'm going live both on Facebook and YouTube at the same time. You can go live on a lot of other platforms at the same time. And just from a general marketing point of view, why not? Why not just do it? If you can do it at the same time to a few, why not? Why just do it to one? So the technology is there now, and you can do it with OBS, Streamlabs. Riverside's really good. Riverside's what I'm using. It's really cool. So yeah, if you want any videos created on how to go live or whatever, and so yeah, get in touch, DM me. I'll see if I can help. I mean, the way that I make my money is by marketing for small businesses. But if you're out there and you need help and you've got a business, we'll see if we can do some business together. If you're out there, you don't have a business and you just want to pick my brains about what I've talked about in this live, if you're struggling with something, then don't be a stranger. Get in touch. So I'll see if I can. Help. So yeah, I'm Michael Greenwood, and I will see you next time.